Good morning and welcome to the Return Homestead. My name is Mike and my wife Marty and I homestead 50 acres in southeastern Kentucky. Today we are continuing the remodel on our 2001 Fleetwood. In the last couple of videos we've been getting some finish work done on the walls. Marty's gotten a fresh coat of paint on this shiplap. It's looking absolutely amazing. We've got our vanity light already installed, but before we can put the vanity in, we've got to get some flooring on the floor. While the rest of the house is going to be a wood finish on the floor, whether that's vinyl or laminate or an actual hardwood remains to be seen yet, but we're going to use vinyl in the wet areas, in particular in this bathroom. We also wanted to kind of break up the pattern on the floor so that it's not all wood, so we decided to go with a marble tile. This is a vinyl product. This product is called SmartCore. It is available at Lowe's currently. It has been discontinued, so this is a discontinued item, but that means the price has started to come down. When I first saw these tiles about 2 years ago, they were about $6 a square foot. We were able to pick up all the tile we needed for the bathroom at $4 a square foot, and the price is continuing to fall. Because we were able to get all that we needed to finish this one room, we decided to go ahead and go with what is a discontinued product because we won't need to buy more of this for the future. While there are many different types of flooring that you could put down, including things like concrete. So we could float this with a concrete leveler and then finish that off. We could use an epoxy and pour out an epoxy floor and wait for it to completely set up. We'd have a perfectly smooth flat surface when we were done, but those are very expensive, very time consuming, and they're not going to hold up well in a remodeled mobile home. This is only 3/4 inch subfloor on top of the joists, and that 3/4 inch does deflect quite a bit in between the joists. So the more rigid the product is we put on the floor, the more likely it is to crack and have problems in the future. One other option that we've seen quite frequently in the recent past is simply using plywood. We could get a 3/4 inch finished maple plywood. It's about $90 a sheet, and we could put that on the floor, then sand it and finish it up the way we wanted it with whatever stain and finish coat we wanted. And there are thousands of options for a finish coat. Most often it's an aluminum oxide coating that goes on top of the floor to protect against scratches, but the reality is it's just a covering for your floor. We would never use carpet again on any floor in our home. We've just decided that it's too hard to keep clean, it's too inconvenient when you need to move furniture around. We just rather have a hard floor. So no more carpet. That leaves us with 3 basic options on a remodel. We're going to be either using vinyl, laminate, or a true hardwood. To begin your flooring layout, you find one corner that you're going to start working from, but before you actually start laying out tiles, you need to work out all the math of how this fits into the space. These tiles are exceptionally wide. These are not your standard planks that you would typically see from vinyl flooring. So they are 23 inches long and 11 inches wide. And you want to offset them by half when you're laying these tiles. So with standard floor planks, when you finish a row, whatever you cut off of the end of that row is used to start the next row. But with these tiles, you want to make sure you cut one exactly in the middle. Make sure you're taking care of your fractional measurements and you get this exactly cut in the middle because these lines need to line up centered on the previous row. These tiles are also a little bit different than other vinyl tiles in that the surface is much harder than your standard vinyl tile. And because of that, you cannot simply score the top surface and then snap these boards in half like you can with the other planks. So I do need the table saw in order to cut these in half efficiently. So we got the table saw all set up to make these half cuts. And so we're good to go on that. The other item of consideration is exactly how will this finish up when you get to the other side. And you can see I've got a mark there in the middle of the door, which is where I want the tile to come to so that we can set a threshold. And that is 60 3/4 inches from this other wall. Well, if I lay these tiles out, I get 5 tiles exactly to the edge of the door, and then I'm 1 3/4 inches short to make it to the middle of the door. There are several ways to solve that extra 1 3/4 inches. I could shave 1 3/4 inches off of the edge of the tiles that go up along this wall, and that would at least hide that 1 3/4 gap back along this wall rather than having it in the middle of the doorway. Because the last thing I want is a 1-inch wide strip right down the middle of the door. I'd much rather have a good clean threshold. So I think what we're going to do is allow the tile to come up just short of our center line, and then we'll probably get a legit marble threshold that we can glue into the gap and finish that flooring off that way.
One other important gap to consider when you're laying the floor is this gap between the tile and the wall. Your flooring does need some room to expand and contract, so you want to leave a gap. You don't want to be pressed up against the wall. In the flooring kit that you'll get from Lowe's, you'll find these wedges. The wedges are flat on one side and angled on the other with some notches that help them grip each other. And that's so you can press them together to get different thicknesses so that you can gap your flooring and your wall exactly. But often the wall covering doesn't come all the way to the floor either, and when you shove the tile up, it knocks the wedge over. Check the width of your tiles. Sometimes the tiles are the right width to maintain that gap. Lay your tile out where it goes to mark for the plumbing, and then use a tape measure to verify.
So to cut the 2-inch hole that we need, I'm using just a simple 2-inch hole saw. This is a very cheap hole saw. This is the kind of thing you pick up at the clearance bin at Tractor Supply for about $4. But it is a 2-inch hole saw. It's going to be perfect for cutting through this tile. But the tile is a particularly hard surface, and that cheap drill bit is just going to skate along this really smooth surface. There's not a lot of friction there. So I'm going to use this punch to just add a few holes. And that little bit of a divot's going to give that drill bit something to hang on to so it doesn't travel across the work. And we should be able to get that bit to go straight down into the material. So this stuff does not cut easily. It's really dense material, very tightly packed, and so it more melted than it did cut, but we were able to get a hole through there. And we don't worry about this jagged edge. We're going to put an escutcheon over the top of this so that'll have a metal cover over it once the pipes are in place.
tile used as a spacer just wasn't working, so I grabbed some blocks of wood and I used the table saw to cut notches on one side of the block. So it has a 1/4 by 1/4 edge on it, and that holds our space while the block sits flush on the tile and flush up to the walls, so it doesn't collapse when I press on it.
So not only do you have to cut the tile to fit around any plumbing that's already coming through the subfloor, but you've also got to cut the tile to go around any walls that jut out, just like this wall that surrounds our toilet area. So I was able to get 3 courses of tile in before I had to deal with the wall. The first 2 courses fit perfectly within the footprint of the wall, so nothing to do there. And conveniently, they also finish out so that this 3rd row of tiles fits up underneath the drywall, nice and snug against the wall. So all we have to deal with is making sure that we match the pattern, because this row has to continue in full tiles, and so the back row has to have the edge of its tile line up with this one. The simplest way to do that is to take a measurement from the edge of this tile to the edge of the wall, add 1/4 inch to make sure you're leaving that gap that you need, and then we'll cut this off of the leading edge of that first tile. That's going to allow that tile to line up perfectly with this one. Now, because we're setting these in offset courses so that each course is half offset from the previous course, we want to make sure that this second row of tiles ends up directly in the middle of this tile. So we want its line to go right here where I've marked. That means that we'll need to cut looks like about 4¼ inches off of the trailing edge of this tile. So what we want is a tile that's only 4¼ inches wide and has this edge on it in order to start this second course of tile in the toilet room. And you'll see how all this fits as it starts to come together here. We're coming back at the end of the day on Wednesday, and we're finally getting around to putting these last few tiles in. So never expect these projects to go exactly according to plan. Sometimes it's a simple thing like you left your wallet at home. Other times it's a septic backup. So you just kind of go with the flow. If you're going to be setting tile, be sure to get one of these little kits from Lowe's that has all of these pry bars and little blocks for helping you knock these tiles together. I'm not trying to get a lot of pressure on this. I just want little light taps just to get the lock to set. And I'm just watching this gap and watching for it to close up all the way. You want to be careful not to do your pulling from the lock on the tile. Make sure you're above the lock. Get a decent seal there. On to the next tile. Need to roto-zip that off.
What?
This edge of drywall.
Oh.
It just sticks out a little bit from the door frame. So I'm only going to trim about 1 inch off of this. Just right there on that corner. So all I need to do, pull out that little square and it should fit. All right, so normally you want to lift this tile up at about a 30-degree angle to get that lock to set in before you start tapping on it. But the wall makes it really hard to get that angle up on it. So I'm just going to set the tile in place and then we'll use the block to tap it in. As you can see, that heavy tapping is why you need to have some sort of a block at the other side of the floor. You've got to brace yourself against the wall. You know, these tools that are used for cutting water pipes have a latch on them that will allow you to close the tool and then latch it in the shut position. This does two things. It protects the blade, make sure nothing falls on it or damages it while it's sitting in your toolbox, and also make sure you don't reach up and grab the blade. Just a friendly little safety precaution there. This tile is a little bit different because this doorway is different. This door, it keeps its curve. This is the shower, and the shower needs a curb on it to make sure the water stays in. So we're actually going to be adding a 2x4 to the top of this one, not taking it off. So all I need to do is just cut that edge of the tile off. Don't mind it so much, you make bad cuts, but we're short on material, so it makes it annoying. Okay.
I gotcha. Right here.
And just like that, we have a brand new floor in our master bathroom. This tile has been a big surprise. We did not like working with the tile. I'll let you know that right up front. When you cut this stuff, it makes the nastiest smelling, thick, smoky powder that comes off of the tile with the saw. It is not pleasant at all. This is absolutely the worst tile that I have put on a saw to date. It does, however, have a very nice surface to it. There is a great coefficient of friction, and yet this is a very smooth surface. When you hit it with the broom, everything just scatters right off of it. It is perfect for a bathroom. The reports online of people who have used this product in the past have given it a long life expectancy. They have been very pleased with the installation once it's in place. I have not enjoyed setting the tile. The locks do go together fairly easily, but they're a little bit brittle. So I did break a lock a couple of different times. We also had 2 tiles that had damaged corners where the top surface had peeled up at the corner. And so we did lose those 2 tiles. I am going to try to return those to Lowe's. Never take materials like that were bad when you took them out of the box and just accept it and move on. You can take that product back and try to get your money back on it, and we're going to do that. But we've got the floor all in place. It is good to go. It doesn't need wax. It doesn't need any kind of a finish on it. It is ready for the installation of the vanity. So tomorrow we're going to take the time to get the vanity in place, try to get it hooked up to the plumbing. If we can get all the plumbing hooked up, we'll have a fully functional bathroom with the sinks all ready to go. And while I've been busy setting tile, Marty's been stopping her work to come and help me out as I need to get new tiles locked in. But she's been working on putting up the cedar in the closet. So those walls are completely covered. We now have an aromatic cedar closet. And this stuff looks awesome. And it smells absolutely amazing. I wish there was some way to get this smell into the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and do so. While you've got that window open, hit that thumbs up button. That lets the algorithm know you enjoyed the video and they'll share it out with more people. We'll see you next time.